Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, this is Jesse with the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things dirty through a common sense lens. And it's one of them situations we know essentially the future of Warner Brothers and DC as we know it is riding on the Superman movie, right? James Gunn's Superman movie that comes out this July. Well, it's one of them situations where a lot of people are being very, very not overly cautious and hypercritical of absolutely everything that comes out about this movie. And as they should be, right? Fans, whether it be Marvel, DC, or audiences in general, have been burned by Hollywood for essentially the last decade over and over and over again. We've seen the destruction of some of our most beloved characters, some of our most beloved IPs used for an agenda-driven purpose. And this has obviously made a lot of fans out there very cautious and very gun-shy about actually going out there and watching any of these things. And ladies and gentlemen, the future of Warner Brothers concerning its current status, concerning the fact that it just got its credit rating dropped down to junk status, the future of Warner Brothers and DC as a whole absolutely is riding on Superman. And ladies and gentlemen, the latest toy leaks that we have seen show what could end up being a very disastrous decision for James Gunn and DC as a whole, because if this is what ends up actually happening, and if this line ends up being uttered inside of the movie, well, you better hope that opening weekend is absolutely amazing, because it will be all downhill from there. Because as you can see over here from the headline from CosmicBook.News, new Superman ditches patriotism for politics under James Gunn, no American way. Now, obviously, given this is something from a toy, right? So this might not actually end up being something that makes it into the movie. But needless to say, James Gunn has talked about it extensively over and over and over again, how he controls and reviews every single aspect of this movie and everything that goes through DC, whether it be the toys or the trailers or any of the kind of media or marketing. James Gunn claims he approves of absolutely every single bit of this. Do I think he might be blowing a little bit of smoke up his own butt? Probably, but at the end of the day, he is the one taking credit for all of this, and he is the guy that is responsible for this ship and whether or not it ends up hitting an iceberg or sails a very nice, smooth seas. So we're going to check out this article from CosmicBook.News, getting all of the juicy details, show you the pictures of this toy and what the line actually says now. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing. We just crossed 2K. We are on our way to 2,100, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, use the comment section down below. Do you think this something will actually end up in the movie, especially concerning some of the massive amount of changes? Well, not massive amount of changes, but we've heard some of the changes and some of the reshoots and the recutting that has already happened to this movie. Or do you think this is James Gunn actually completely and totally forcing his politics into this movie and will end up being a disastrous dumpster fire for the future of the DC? Let us know what you think about all that in the comment section down below. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, please check out the links in the description as well. Become a member, and for less than $5 a month, and you can help keep this channel going indefinitely, and we certainly would appreciate that. All right, from CosmicBook.News. And full disclaimer, I am a DC fanboy. I want this movie to do well. If you're new here, you might not have seen some of my past videos going on all over all of this kind of stuff, but I have been excited, cautiously optimistic about this movie since it was announced, since the casting was announced, since the casting was some of the first suspicions out there. I'm super happy with the casting. I think they're very spot on. Apparently, we're never going to get an actual white Perry White ever again, but whatever. At the end of the day, the rest of the casting outside of that is absolutely spot on. I'm super happy with it. I'm super happy with the actors and the way they've been talking in the media and everything else. I want this movie to do well. But in order to be fair, in order to actually be objective, we have to call balls and strikes fairly. And if we want this stuff to actually get better and to not have this kind of nonsense and garbage interjected into our favorite properties and our favorite fandoms, we have to continue to call this stuff out. So even though I don't want to, because I want this movie to do well, I am going to call this out. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. So James Gunn, do better. If this all ends up being 100% true and ends up in the movie, of course. And what comes as no surprise, James Gunn Superman ditches the classic traditional motto of Man of Steel, replacing the American way with the politically correct, the human way. Which, mind you, boys and girls, this is also contrary to what Peter Safran said about the Superman movie. He specifically quoted the Truth, Justice, and the American Way film. He said that's what the kind of Superman it was going to be, which is one of the reasons I got so excited about this movie, seeing a return to form on that kind of thing. Looks like maybe Peter and James weren't talking so much when it came to this toy. The phrase truth, justice, and the American way was first popularized during the 1940s in the Adventures of Superman radio show. It became iconic with the 1950s Superman TV series starring George Reeves. It's long time been associated with the Man of Steel. However, similar to Gunn, Bryan Singer also dropped the line in the 2006 Superman Returns movie. See, not exactly the first time they haven't done this kind of situation either. But considering the current era of the time, you need to go back and get back to the Superman and the source material that the majority of the fans know and love so very well. And I mean, that iconic cover with Superman holding the American flag with the truth, justice, and the American way, I mean, that is burned into most comic book and especially Superman fans out there. It's an iconic cover, and that's one of the things that so many people remember about this. Truth, justice, and the American way is something big for that. And you know what? Maybe it's part of the reason why the Singer movie flopped too, because that one really sucked, because that one was a perfect casting as well. Sorry, Brandon Ralph, it wasn't your fault. The movie was just bad. So official Superman movie merchandise featuring David Cornsweet as Superman features a description of the box that replaces the American way with the human way. And so you can see this right here. This is a Head Knockers. I've never even heard of this. I guess it's some kind of bobblehead. Hand-painted collectors, quality resin at an affordable price. Superman, DC Studios. So as you can see right here, Superman must reconcile his alien Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing as reporter Clark Kent. As the embodiment of truth, justice, and the human way, he soon finds himself in a world that views these as old-fashioned. Now, I don't know what the hell the human way is. It sounds to me like some socialist, globalist, nonsense, garbage talking points. But at the exact same time, it wouldn't surprise me at all that this stuff is in there. But that's exactly what this sounds like. This sounds like some globalist, humanist, nonsense, World Economic Forum garbage that they put out. Remember the video? You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Like, it's literally comes from the exact same kind of vein and garbage and nonsense. What the hell is the human way? Nobody knows anything about that. Nobody has any idea what that is. And if that line is uttered in the movie by David Cornsweet as Superman, dude, that is going to ruin this movie. And a lot of fans are going to be walking out of there absolutely livid, and you are going to get roasted extensively by everybody that sees this movie. And trust me, I will be roasting you for it too, James Gunn, as well. So let's hope some of the re-edits, some of the potential reshoots, some of the changes behind the scenes. I don't know, maybe Peter Safran saw this and went, James, what the hell are you doing? I have no idea, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. But this is official merch. And as Cosmic Book points out, as we mentioned in the preview to this video, worth a mention is that James Gunn has previously said he approves all the toys and such. So this likely comes straight from Gunn, which lines up with reports that Gunn's Superman movie is more of a take on modern politics than a superhero story. Now, also remind you, this is from Cosmic Book News and Matt McGloin. Matt McGloin has also had sources in the past that said it's actually a really good movie and they have enjoyed it. So maybe the politics are very subtle. Maybe they're not over the beat you over the head nonsense, right? Because these are the same, Matt's same inside sources that told us about how bad a lot of this rest of this stuff was going to be. Told us about how Batgirl was going to happen and everything else. So it's one of them situations where this is one of them things where we've heard reports coming from both sides. So at the end of the day, we'll have to wait and see how much of this political suspicion actually ends up in the movie itself. So footage also features Superman getting mad at Lois Lane when she calls him out for getting involved in politics. Of course, the trailer also features Americans mad and upset and throwing cans at Superman's head. Obviously, we've seen that from a lot of the trailers and stuff like that. Reports also claim Gunn has laced Superman with political jabs, including Lex Luthor's mutant troll monkey army meant to outrage lowly humans. Now, according to Nerdrotic, according to Gary Buechler, from what he'd heard from his sources inside of Warner Brothers, is that the scene's actually really short. So we'll have to see what ends up happening, see if anybody actually even notices it, or if it's actually even really overt, or if it's just something like it's basically like an Easter egg specifically for James Gunn himself and all the rest of his cronies. I don't know. We'll end up seeing what happens. A storyline involving fake news and even jokes mocking the Snyder Cut. Now, that's one of those things that we have seen, and that's one of the big problems. That's a self-insertion by James Gunn, right? Obviously, a lot of the Snyder guys have been out there, really beating down and like, I am a Snyder fan. right? I loved what Snyder did with Man of Steel. I know a lot of people have issues with it. I still really enjoy that movie. I absolutely love it. It's one of those things I really wanted to see it. I also love the Snyder Cut version of Justice League. I enjoyed all 4 hours of that. I think it's much more fleshed out. I think it's a much better movie than, of course, even the freaking theatrical cut. Oh my God, what an abomination that was. But needless to say, it's one of them situations where I get that. Like, I was there with you guys. If you guys have been here since my old channel, you'll know I've spent all summer before the Black Adam movie coming out talking to you guys about the reports over and over and over again that Henry Cavill was coming back. And we were right. It happened. But guess what? Even after everybody in the world knew that Henry Cavill was going to show up, you guys didn't show up for the Black Adam movie. That movie only ended up making like $400 million globally. Like, it wasn't a very great at all. I think it only made like $300 million domestically. Like, that was not what it needed. Or $300 million like globally. $400 million at the most, I think. So that's what happens. But the problem is there's guys out there that are not DC fans, right? They're Snyder fans. And those are the ones that are crying for this movie to fail. Those are the ones, constantly bashing it nonstop and talking about all this kind of stuff. And guess what? It's okay to be a Snyder fan. Just don't pretend to be a DC fan first when you're out there hoping for all of this stuff to fail. I want this to succeed. I am a DC fan first. I have always been a DC fanboy. I have never hid that from anybody. I want this stuff to do well. But going down this path, James Gunn, and going with the human way, well, we've seen what happens with that in the past. You win, it'll end up failing. What remains to be seen is how much of it makes its way into the final cut. A recent report said that James Gunn Superman has undergone a course correction. Methinks maybe David Zaslav or Peter Safran saw something that they didn't like very much and kind of got a few things fixed or maybe a few things toned down. Let's hope it all ends up being for the best and we actually get a good Superman movie. A lot is said to be writing on this movie for Warner Brothers, so why would they want to piss off more than half of their audience? How did that work out for Star Wars and Marvel? And of course, Superman flies into theaters on July 11th. So we'll see what happens. Boys and girls, we've seen toys come out because we know how long it takes for toys to go into production, right? We know it's sometimes that stuff takes years, and they take a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to get the molds together. It takes a lot of time to get the designs together, the boxes and everything else. So this is something that could have been designed 6 months, a year ago, hell, 2 years ago when this toy could have been designed. So is there a possibility that this is actually going to end up being the line in the movie? Absolutely. Is there also a possibility that this is something like we've seen in the past with Hollywood movies where either toys or book adaptations are different from what actually ends up happening in the movie? I mean, we saw that with Star Wars, right? Because a lot of those book adaptations are based on the original scripts. And then when things actually come out in the movies, things end up getting changed because things end up getting changed on the set and then things getting editing in the script, all of that kind of stuff. So it's a prime example of this could be something that might not even end up making it in the movie. But if this is a line, if there is some big iconic moment where David Cornsweat Superman stands there and goes, well, I'm here for truth, justice, and the human way, I guarantee you every Superman and DC fan and every single normie out there who is not possessed by the spirit of the age or just an absolute simp will mock you and ridicule you for it because that is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. It's better just to avoid the line at all than to do some kind of abomination and bastardization like you have done here. James Gunn, if this ends up being true and this actually ends up making it into your movie and someone hasn't caused you to not do this, I promise you one thing and one thing only. Your fans, the DC fans, and the Superman fans out there will absolutely roast you for this insanity, and it will not bode well for you at the box office. And after all, at the end of the day, you've done this to yourselves, and you will get exactly what you deserve. Because after all, it truly is truth, justice, and the American way. That's the Superman motto.